When I first started to do research on sexual assaults in the military and um, military sexual assaults and veteran sexual assaults, I originally started to want to look it up for Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was originally repealed in 2011. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed in 2011, and Um, I didn't understand that this did not ban discrimination on bases, and that so even with this repeal, the culture of the military still allowed for this discrimination to exist. So the same freedoms that gay, lesbian, bisexual civilians have, military men and women are not afforded um, in civilian life. So if you're a civilian and you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, um, you are free to express your sexuality and love whoever you want. But the culture of the military, if you decide to love those people and you do so openly, you can be openly discriminated against um, just because that's the culture. What does that have to do with military sexual assault and um, in my paper and the toolkit? Well, it has to do with the culture of the military. So with with that, there hasn't been a change in the culture. So um, the Center of Deployment for the Center of Deployment Psychology, approximately 5.2% of college women will experience some sort of sexual assault annually, as opposed to 2.6% of active duty military women. Um, and at of that, 0.28% of men report being sexually assaulted. That's military on a military setting. So these are all active duty military personnel. Um, and those numbers don't sound like they're a lot, but when you're looking at it, these are active duty personnel. These numbers actually come up to be almost identical because women are only about 68% of an active duty military base compared to the amount of military men. So that 0.28% of military men that are stating that they're being sexually assaulted actually comes up to being almost equal to the same amount of women that are being sexually assaulted. Um, so on May 2nd, 2019, the New York Times posted an article about a surge in military sexual assaults. And in this article, Senator Martha McCauley, a Republican from Arizona, reported how she had been raped by the superior officer and had suffered from numerous sexual assaults while serving. This article reported that women only make up less than 20% of the military, but are currently suffering from 63% of all attacks. So again, they're suffering from 63% of all attacks, and they're 20% of the military. Military sexual assault is particularly distressing to male service members. Um, so, statistically, male on male um, sexual assaults, men will see themselves as they had done something wrong when they have become sexually assaulted, not that their not that their perpetrators had done something wrong, but that they had done something wrong. They will see that they had been too effeminate, that they had been weaker, and not that this is a power play, So the psychological consequences of military sexual assault are statistically worse for men. Ultimately, when it comes down to treatment, it ends up being on the the job of the person working with the male service person to help them see that they did nothing wrong when they're being sexually assaulted. And it is important to provide psychoeducation for male rape myths and emphasize the assault was not consensual, because that's another thing. Sometimes men don't understand that even if they had climaxed during the sexual assault, they think that then, because of this, that they then consented, or again they were weaker and they did something wrong. And they have to understand this is still not consensual. Just because you climax, that's your body's stating, um you have to, it's just not fighting back. So we have to help them in that point. When compared with a general sample of male Iraq, Afghanistan area veterans who reported military sexual assaults endorsed higher levels of negative functional and psychiatric outcomes as anticipated. These included increased likelihood of reporting service-connected disabilities and increased likelihood of receipt of outpatient mental health treatment in the past 3 years. So they have a higher likelihood of PTSD symptoms, and higher levels of depression symptoms, and higher levels of suicidality. Um, Currently, many military personnel do not come forward with reporting military sexual assaults due to feeling they cannot respect um, some of their leaders. Many of the leaders have developed a culture of complacency. So again, the culture of the military. So what I started with at the beginning, the culture of the military, is where we have this problem. The leaders have a culture of complacency and institutional compliance, making the service personnel feel that they will not be heard if they come forward with the reports of and allegations. Due to this, many of the service personnel will continue to suffer and may end up with worse mental health illnesses while in the service. Ultimately, if service personnel feel they can't respect their leaders, they can't trust their leaders, or their leaders are doing what's best for the military, or just what's best for them to continue to rise in the ranks. Um, this not only hurts the service personnel, but it hurts the whole troop as a whole, um, because they can't trust the person who's leading them. Ultimately, it goes down to what's gonna help them or what's gonna hurt them. They can't trust the person who's leading them. They're never gonna trust them. They can't trust that person to save their life. So now we have a person who's complicit in their own um, degradation of their mental health. So this is a situation that we have to help these mental health workers, these service members, to get mental health services to help them in the future, and while they're still in their services, and not feel that they need to keep quiet. Um, Sadly enough, the military a is still one of those cultures of secrecy, and it has a language of silence, and we need to help them stop this language of silence and come up with a new language of help, and um, a new culture of, mental health is okay, and that if you come forward, we will help you.